In today's video, we are going to talk about how to start doing sentiment analysis on larger datasets, including how to concatenate large datasets into a corpus. The first thing we need to do is load our libraries, which you will see I already have typed out here, so let's load those. And the next thing we want to do is load our stopwords data list. Once we have our libraries and stopwords loaded, we can start working on building our corpus. For today's example, we are going to be building a corpus of Charles Dickens works. So the first step will be to search for some of Charles Dickens' works on Project Gutenberg. We will use the view function, and then we will search the Gutenberg metadata, and once we have searched the Gutenberg metadata, we are going to filter for Charles Dickens as the author. When we run this code, we will be presented with a large list of all of Charles Dickens' works, and from this, we can choose the works we want to create our corpus with. To create the corpus, we are going to use the Gutenberg download function and our C function to combine them. This corpus will be called Dickens Novels, and then we will download them from Gutenberg, use the C function, and then paste all of the numbers of the novels we wish to use. Then, before we finish, we want to add 2 more fields of data to our table. So we are going to use the meta fields function, and we are going to say meta underscore fields equals, and then another C function, and then title and author. Let's run this and see what happens. We can see that our Dickens novels appeared over here, and looking at them, we can see we have A Tale of Two Cities with the title and the author, and the farther down we scroll, we will get to the Pickwick Papers, the same author, and so on for all of the novels that we added into this variable. The last thing we want to do to this is actually apply a pipe operator and unnest our tokens so that we can get words in lines instead of lines in lines. So again, we will unnest our tokens by word and text, and keep in mind we are using the pipe operator after we have downloaded, combined, and used our meta fields. And let's rerun this code and see how the novel changes. Now we see each word has its own line, which is the way we want it to look like to do any other analysis to it. One problem that might occur when we have our data looking like this is that we did not remove all of the additional material at the front and ends of each novel. So all of that material is going to be embedded in this giant bag of words, and it's going to be extremely hard to remove. So now I'm going to show you a second way to combine all of these novels together while still being able to remove that extra material. The way to do this is to create each novel as a variable on its own, clean it, and then add it to a giant corpus. So let's make a variable called Dickens1, which will be our first Dickens novel, and then we are going to use our Gutenberg download function again. And this time we will just pick one book, so this time it will be number 19337, and then we will include some more meta fields again, and we will use our C function to say title and author, the same as before. Then you can add a little comment off to the side to tell you which book this was. In this case, the novel is A Christmas Carol. Then Once we know that that will be downloaded, we can change our variable to cut off material. So you're going to want to run this first line of code, view it, and then determine which lines you want to start at and which lines you want to end at. For A Christmas Carol, we are going to be starting at line 132. So we will index that in here. And then we will be stopping at line 3451. Remember to add your comma space to designate your rows and columns. Once you run that code, you will see that now the novel has been chopped to just the parts you want to include. You want to do these same steps to every single one of the novels in your corpus before you combine them. So, for example, we will create a Dickens 2, and we will do the exact same process. We will download our novel. We will include our meta fields, title, and author. And I'm going to create a comment telling me which book this is, which is A Tale of Two Cities. Run that line of code, view that novel, and then chop it. So for the sake of this video, I already know how much I want to chop off, so I'm just going to paste that in here. Run this line of code again, and we can check to make sure that what has been chopped was actually chopped. Finally, I'm going to do this for a third novel, which I will call Dickens 3. And again, I will paste it here. We will run this line of code, and then once I view it, I can chop off what I don't want. Now, if you look in your data, you should see Dickens 1, 2, and 3, and using these three novels, I will now demonstrate how to combine them into a corpus. To combine novels into a corpus when they are already three separate data frames, we're going to use the rbind function. So, I will create a variable called Dickens_corpus. Then I'm going to assign it to the rbind function. And in that rbind function, I will list all of the variables I want to include. So I will have Dickens 1, then a comma, then Dickens 2, then a comma, then Dickens 3. I can run this line of code, and now I will show you what has happened. We see that our corpus starts with A Christmas Carol, which is our first novel, and if we scroll down far enough, we will hit Barnaby Rudge, which was our third novel, so scrolling up a ways, we will find A Tale of Two Cities. Keep in mind that these columns need to be the same in all three of your separate variables in order for them to combine effectively. So, for example, if author was before title in this variable, but then title was before author in this one, they would not combine correctly. So make sure that when you create all three of your separate novels, or however many novels you use for your corpus, that all of your columns match up exactly so that when you combine them into a corpus, there are no issues. Now, if we want to clean our novels in order to get the data we want, we can do so. So, let's clean our Dickens corpus like so. We will take our Dickens corpus and then pipe operate it in. And then we will unnest our tokens by word, just like we always do. And then after doing this, we will anti-join our stop words to remove the words we don't want to look at. When we run all of this, our Dickens corpus is going to change, and we can look at it again and see that it's still sorted by title and author, so we can keep track of which book each word is coming from, and we have removed stop words, and we have each word unnested by tokens. And in this case, the tokens are the words. So now that we have a corpus full of words that can be worked with, we can analyze our data. The first thing we want to do is create a word count variable to count up the number of times each word occurs throughout our corpus. So we will call this Dickens word count. And to do this, we are going to take our corpus. Then we are going to count by words. And then after we count by words, we are going to take only the top 20 words. So we will use the top n function, designate the 20 top words. And then after this, we are going to mutate and reorder so that we have the 20 in the correct order we want it. Use the mutate function, word equals, and then we are going to reorder our words by n. When we run this chunk, we will now have the top 20 words in Charles Dickens with the most used word at the top of our list descending to the 20th most used word. This is now data that we can graph using ggplot. To do this, we start with our ggplot function. Inside our ggplot function, we want it to look at the Dickens word count. And then we will use a comma, designate our aesthetic, so we want our x-axis to be the words, and the y-axis to be numbers. Then, using the ggplot type operator, which is a plus sign, we will designate what type of graph we want it to be, in this case, a column or bar graph. Then another ggplot plus sign, and then we're going to give this graph a title. And for this graph, we will just title it Top Words in the Major Works of Charles Dickens. Then after we do this, we want to give labels to our x and y axis. So using the x label function, we type words. Our y label is going to be empty, so we type null. And then finally, we want to flip our coordinates to rotate the graph. So we will use the chord flip function. Now I can run all of this and generate my graph. When I zoom in on my graph, this is what I get. I get the top words in descending order, which is exactly what I wanted. There is much more analysis you can do with this larger corpus, and we will cover that in later videos.